Welcome to the Deep Dive.
The show where we take, a huge stack of your source material, your questions, your notes.
And we synthesize all of that into something you can really use. Actionable, unforgettable knowledge that's tailored, well, just for you.
Absolutely. And today, we're tackling something universal. An experience that I think for a lot of people can generate a ton of anxiety when you're in a new country or using a new language.
Oh, for sure. The restaurant experience.
That's the one. And we're going to move you beyond that nervousness, that feeling of just hoping the server understands you.
Right.
And take you straight to a place of complete confidence, of linguistic mastery, really, in any dining situation.
From a casual little cafe to, a fancy Michelin-starred place.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's unpack the mission for today. The sources you shared with us basically lay out a 2-level guide.
Mm-hmm.
So our deep dive today is going to be custom built to get you ready for both survival and, advanced social strategy.
It's a linguistic ascent, is how I see it. Our first phase is foundational. Let's call it level 1, the essentials. Think of it as your A2 to B1 survival kit. We're going to focus only on the most important, the simplest, and crucially, the most polite phrases you need to get through a meal.
So if you only remember, say, 5 things from this whole deep dive.
They should come from this first section.
Absolutely. And level 2.
Level 2. That's where things get really fascinating. That's the master class. We're talking C1, C2, advanced vocabulary.
Cultural nuances.
And the strategic communication that really proficient speakers use to, manage the whole situation, to build rapport, to subtly shape the entire dining experience.
So it's the difference between just eating and actually dining.
That is the perfect way to put it. Yeah.
Okay.
By the end of this, you'll have the tools for both functional communication and social artistry.
You'll know what to say and you'll know why you're saying it.
Which is where the real confidence comes from, isn't it?
It is. Okay, let's start at level 1 then. The Essential Survival Guide. Maximum utility, minimum complexity.
This is your linguistic armor.
Right. For that first big scary step, just walking through the door and getting a table.
So the second you walk into a restaurant, you meet that first point of contact.
The person at the front, usually by a little desk or a podium.
Exactly. They're managing the whole seating chart, the flow of people.
And this person is the host, or if it's a woman, the hostess, the gatekeeper.
They are. And the interaction with them really sets the tone for everything. But what's the first thing you should do even before you say a word?
I'm guessing it's nonverbal?
It is. The source materials are really clear on this. A friendly smile and eye contact.
Sounds so simple.
It is, but a smile is instant communication. It says, I'm a friendly, respectful person. It just lowers that initial barrier and makes the staff, more open to helping you.
Okay, so smile, eye contact. Then we move on to what the notes call the magic key phrase.
Yes. This is the simple, clear, perfectly polite sentence that gives the host everything they need to know in one go.
And that phrase is...
A table for number, please.
That's it.
That's it. It's so efficient. A table states your goal. For number gives them your group size.
And the magic word, please.
The absolute necessity. It makes it a request, not a demand.
Okay, so if it's just me and one other person, a table for 2, please.
Perfect.
And if there's a bigger group of us, say 5 people, a table for 5, please.
You've got it. And this is important. If you're dining alone, you don't need to feel awkward or explain anything. It's just...
A table for 1, please.
Exactly. That one simple sentence is your guaranteed entry point. It works every time.
Okay, we've used the magic phrase. Now we have to be ready for the next step. They're either going to seat you or...
Or more likely, if it's a busy night, they're going to ask about a reservation.
Right. So the best case scenario is they just say, right this way, and you're good.
But especially in mid to high-end places, you really need to understand the concept of a reservation.
Let's define that. What exactly is a reservation or a booking?
A reservation, and it's often called a booking in the UK, just means you've called ahead, maybe hours, maybe days in advance, to save a table for a specific time. It's your guarantee.
So because of that, the host's next question is almost certainly going to be,
do you have a reservation?
And you need to have your answer ready without getting flustered. So option 1, you planned ahead.
If you did, your response is all about giving them your reference. You say, yes, I do. It's under the name.
It's under the name. That's the key part of the phrase.
It is. It's standard. They'll immediately look for you in their book or their system.
And what if you didn't call ahead?
Just as simple. No, we don't. Or, no, I don't. That tells them you're a walk-in.
And then you have to be prepared for the next possibility.
The wait. If they're busy, they'll politely tell you, maybe something like, I'm sorry, but there will be a short wait.
And they'll give you a time estimate, right? The wait is about 20 minutes.
Or it'll be approximately half an hour. And that number is your cue. It forces you to make a decision.
And our two choices are?
Stay or go. If you're willing to wait, you just say, okay, we'll wait. And you usually, stand in a waiting area or go to the bar.
But if the wait is just too long for you, you can't just walk out.
No, that's rude. You need a graceful exit. You just acknowledge what they said and stay polite.
So something like, oh, okay. Thanks for letting me know.
Thank you anyway, you guy. It's perfect. It's clear, it's courteous, and there's no awkwardness. You've handled the whole situation.
That really does cover the arrival perfectly. You see, just by mastering those few simple structures, you've gotten through what is often the most stressful part.
Exactly. The confidence comes from knowing what's coming next in the conversation. You've done it, you're in, you've communicated, and now you're either at your table or you've politely moved on.
Challenge 1, complete. Yeah. So now we're at the table. We have the menu, and the server is approaching.
Right, the waiter or waitress. And they're usually trained to come over pretty quickly to get a drink order. They'll open with something like, can I get you something to drink to start?
And this brings us to what our source material calls the golden phrase for ordering, the one you can use for literally anything.
That phrase is, I would like, but, and this is important, in natural, fast conversation, it almost always gets shortened.
To I'd like?
I'd like, exactly.
It sounds so much more natural. It's a polite desire, not a command. So if I want a glass of white wine, I'd like a glass of white wine, please.
Perfect for a sparkling water.
I'd like a sparkling water, please.
The structure is foolproof. I'd like.
Yeah.
Plus the item. Plus, please.
Yeah.
You will always be understood, and you will always sound polite.
Is there another alternative that's just as good?
Yes. A very common one is to phrase it like a question. Can I have...
Okay, so can I have a lemonade, please?
Or, can we have a bottle of your house red, please? Both I'd like and can I have are just excellent, solid choices for this level.
So we've ordered our drinks, we look at the menu, the server comes back and says something like, are you ready to order?
And you use the exact same golden phrase.
Right, no need to learn anything new.
None at all. That's the beauty of it. For your food, you just say, I would like the classic cheeseburger, please. Or I'd like the Caesar salad, please.
The efficiency here is really the key to the confidence, isn't it?
It is. Okay, so let's fast forward. The meal was great, plates are cleared, and we're ready for the final step. Paying and leaving.
We need to ask for the bill, or, and this is an important regional difference for you to remember, the check if you're in the U.S.
Same thing, different word. But first, you have to get the server's attention. And you don't need to wave your arm around wildly.
No, a subtle gesture is better. Eye contact.
Eye contact, maybe a slight raise of the hand, a little nod when they look in your direction. That's all it takes.
Once you have their attention, the simplest way to ask is,
the bill, please, or the check, please.
So simple. And if you want to use a full sentence to be a bit softer...
Excuse me, can we have the bill, please? Or could we get the check now? Both are totally fine, very common.
Okay, the server brings the bill, you pay, the transaction is done. What's the last essential bit of politeness as you're getting up to leave?
You want to end the whole interaction on a high note. As you leave, just offer a final compliment.
A simple thank you, that was lovely.
Or, we really enjoyed it. Everything was delicious.
Yeah.
Then a simple goodbye. It just closes the loop respectfully.
And that's it. That is the complete survival guide. We've gone from the front door to the back door using just a handful of really essential, polite, and clear phrases.
You're now functionally proficient. You can walk into a restaurant and know exactly how to handle the core mechanics of the whole ritual.
And now, for those of you who are ready to go deeper, we're going to shift gears.
A big shift.
From functional communication to linguistic artistry.
Yeah.
To sophisticated social strategy.
That's right. We are now entering the C1, C2 masterclass. We're going to revisit these same situations, but we're going to explore the nuanced language, the subtle cues.
The things that proficient speakers use, not just to communicate, but to really master the entire experience.
Yes. This is about turning a simple transaction into a personalized, elevated event. Let's dive in.
So the big shift in thinking at this advanced level is that dining out, especially at a nice place, isn't just a transaction.
No, it's fundamentally a social ritual. It's a performance. And your language becomes a strategic tool to signal that you're a discerning guest, which, often leads to better service.
Okay, so let's go back to the very beginning. Making a reservation, but we're throwing out, I want to book a table. How does a C1 or C2 speaker handle this?
The language becomes much, much softer. It's more deferential. It's deliberately indirect. You use soft openers. Like, I was hoping to book a table for 4, perhaps around 8:20 this Friday evening.
The difference between I want and I was hoping to is huge, isn't it?
It's massive.
Yeah.
I was hoping to. Shows consideration. It implies you understand they might be busy and you're open to a bit of a negotiation.
You're a flexible guest, not a demanding one.
Precisely. And that little phrase, perhaps around 8.00, is another key softener. You're not stating an ultimatum. You're opening a dialogue, inviting them to suggest another time if 8.00 is booked. It's just a smoother way to start.
But the real art here is using that initial call to start shaping the experience you want.
Yes, you're not just booking a time, you're booking an atmosphere. You can start making specific requests.
So you might say something like, if at all possible, we'd be delighted with a table with a view.
Or, if you want privacy, we were hoping for something a little more intimate. Perhaps a quiet nook or a comfortable booth if one is available.
A quiet nook. I like that. Using specific terms like nook or booth shows, what makes a good restaurant experience.
It does. But then there's the really strategic move, which is signaling a special occasion.
Okay, explain this one. This is a brilliant piece of social strategy.
So you don't ask for anything. You just provide context. You say, I should mention we are celebrating a special occasion. It's our 10th anniversary.
And what does that do? You haven't asked for a better table or a free glass of champagne.
It implicitly tells the restaurant that this meal is a big deal, that it is critical for the experience to go well. It creates this internal pressure on them to give you a great table and great service because they know the stakes are higher.
It's powerful because it's so indirect.
It's masterful. So now we have our reservation. We arrive. We're moving beyond a table for 2.
We reference the booking with precision.
Good evening. We have a reservation for 2 at 8.0 under the name Dance. It's professional, it's clear, and it shows you're an organized guest.
But what happens if, despite all this planning, the table they show you is not great? Maybe it's right by the kitchen doors. How do you negotiate a change gracefully?
You have to frame your preference as a need, never ever as a complaint. If the table is too out in the open, too much in a busy walkway, a proficient speaker would say it's a bit conspicuous.
Conspicuous, a great word. Easily seen, attracting too much attention. So what if the issue is noise? It's too loud here, is a bit crude.
Very crude. Instead, you frame it around the difficulty of having a conversation. You'd say something like, we love the energy of the room, but would you happen to have a table where the acoustics are a little softer? It might be easier for us to converse.
That is very clever. You start with a compliment, love the energy, and then you base your request on a very reasonable need. It's hard to say no to that.
It is. Another classic problem is being seated too close to another table. Again, you don't say we're too close.
So what do you say?
You frame your desire for privacy as an act of politeness to others.
How does that work?
You say, I wonder if there's a table with a little more separation. We'd hate to impose on our neighbor's conversation.
Wow. So by pretending you're protecting their privacy, you get your own. That's a masterclass in diplomacy.
It's elegant and it almost always works. You're using language to influence the social setting.
Okay, we've secured the perfect table. Now we interact with the server. And at this level, it's not a transaction. It's about building rapport.
Right. So when the waiter comes over and says, good evening, my name is Daniel, and I'll be your server tonight.
A proficient speaker uses their name back.
Immediately. Daniel, thank you very much. We're looking forward to it.
Why is that such a big deal? It's a tiny detail.
Because it instantly changes the dynamic from a mechanical, staff serves customer interaction to a personal one. You're acknowledging them as a person, and that almost always translates to more attentive service.
And then comes the strategic inquiry.
Yes. You ask an intelligent question that lets the server show off their expertise. It validates their role.
So you could ask about the specials.
A perfect example is, before we look at the wine list, could you possibly tell us if there are any specials this evening that aren't listed on the menu?
That shows you're an engaged, serious diner.
Exactly. So within minutes, you've set the perfect tone, and now you're ready to look at the menu.
Which, for a C2 speaker, is not just a list of dishes.
No. It's a meticulously crafted marketing document. It's a linguistic code. And if you can crack that code, you understand the entire philosophy of the restaurant.
Let's break down some of that code. Let's start with the words that tell a story about the ingredients. What story does the word artisanal tell?
Artisanal or artisan. When you see artisan bread, it means it was made by a skilled craftsman using traditional methods. It suggests care, history, quality.
It's the linguistic opposite of factory produce.
It is. It immediately helps you justify the higher price in your mind. Then you have words like heritage or heirloom.
Like heirloom tomatoes.
Right. These terms mean the ingredients come from old traditional varieties from before modern industrial farming. The implication is a deeper, more authentic flavor.
It's an appeal to authenticity.
It is. And that leads directly to provenance. Provenance just means the origin, the source of the ingredient.
So when a menu says pork with a provenance from the Lake District,
It's not just telling you where it's from. It's signaling a commitment to quality, to transparency, to that whole farm-to-table story. It says, we chose this specific source for a reason, and you can trust it.
and one more, foraged, as in locally foraged mushrooms.
To forage is to gather food from the wild. So that word suggests rarity, seasonality.
Exclusivity.
Exactly. It paints this romantic picture of the chef out in the woods, and it tells you that you're about to eat something you can't get just anywhere or at any time of year.
The menu really does become a piece of literature. Okay, let's move from ingredients to technique. Words that signal a modern approach. Let's start with deconstructed.
Yes. Deconstructed apple crumble.
What does that actually mean? Do they just forget to put it together?
It means the chef is taking a classic dish apart. So you get the components, the cooked apples, the crumble topping, the custard served separately on the plate.
So you can experience each part on its own?
Right. It signals a modern, intellectual, even experimental approach. The chef is inviting you to think about the food.
And the other key technical term, sous vide.
Sous vide is French for under vacuum. It means the food, maybe a piece of fish or steak, is sealed in a bag and cooked very slowly in a precisely temperature-controlled water bath.
And why should you care about that?
Because it signals technical precision. It guarantees the food is cooked perfectly evenly from edge to center, and that it's incredibly moist and tender. It says the kitchen values science and consistency.
You also see that good menus use very specific evocative verbs instead of just cooked.
Absolutely. If a fish is pan-seared, you know it was cooked fast and hot to get a beautiful brown crust. That tells you about the texture.
If vegetables are blanched,
You know they were dunked in boiling water, then ice water, so they'll be crisp and bright green, not mushy.
and if salmon is cured,
He was preserved with salt and sugar, not heat. So you should expect a silky, delicate texture. Understanding these words gives you a really accurate picture of the dish before you eat and order it.
this is a phenomenal breakdown of the menu's language. Now let's apply this knowledge to the actual order, the advanced order and modification.
The goal here is a kind of co-creation with your server. You're entering into a dialogue.
So you start with a question, not a statement.
Yes, and you soften it with a compliment. Let's say the menu just says market fish. You don't just ask, what's the fish?
No, you say.
I was intrigued by the market fish. Could you tell me a little more about it? I was intrigued by is a subtle compliment to the menu itself.
The server explains what it is. Then you can drill down with a follow-up that shows you have a sophisticated palate.
You might ask, that sounds exquisite. Is this sauce very rich? Or is it a lighter preparation? You're showing you care about the balance of flavors.
Okay, now for the trickiest part, modification. Asking for a change without sounding like a demanding, difficult customer.
This is the pinnacle of dining diplomacy. You have to use softeners, and you have to acknowledge that you're asking for extra work.
So if you want to swap your fries for salad, the blunt way is, I want salad instead of fries. The diplomatic C2 way is,
You phrase it as a question about how difficult it would be. I was wondering, would it be a terrible imposition to substitute the fries for a side salad?
a terrible imposition. You're apologizing for the request before you've even made it.
Exactly. It makes it very hard for them to say no. Another great technique is using what I'd call dramatic politeness.
Give me an example.
If you want the sauce on the side, you could say, would it be dreadfully difficult to have the sauce on the side? I just prefer to control the seasoning.
The rationale at the end helps too. It shows it's a preference, not just a whim.
It does. Now, for something serious like a food allergy, you need to be clear, but still collaborative.
So how do you phrase that?
You'd say, I should mention that I have a serious nut allergy. Could you please advise me on which dishes are completely nut-free? Advise me makes the server your partner in safety.
It's all about collaboration. And this applies to the pacing of the meal too, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This is a high-level move for a truly relaxed meal. You tell them your preferred pace up front.
You say,
We're in no rush whatsoever this evening, so please do feel free to pace the courses out for us.
pace the courses out. That's the key phrase. And again, you've made it sound like you're doing them a favor, letting them take their time.
That is the essence of the masterclass, managing the whole interaction.
Okay, the food arrives. Now we need the vocabulary to talk about it. The vocabulary of connoisseurship. We're moving way beyond just delicious.
To give sophisticated praise, you need precise, top-tier adjectives for a dish that is beautiful, refined, and delicately made.
The word is exquisite.
Yes, the presentation is exquisite. It frames the dish as a work of art.
And for something that is so good, it's almost a spiritual experience. The word you should use very, very sparingly.
Sublime. The texture of that sauce was nothing short of sublime. It suggests a level of excellence that inspires awe.
And if you want to praise the whole dish as a major achievement for the chef,
You call it a triumph. The combination of those flavors is a culinary triumph. That's the kind of professional, generous praise a kitchen loves to hear.
let's get more specific about flavor profiles. For something sharp, tangy, like a citrus dressing.
You'd use piquant or zesty. You could say the dressing has a lovely piquant quality that cuts through the richness of the duck.
And for deep, strong, complex flavors, like a stew that's been cooking for hours.
The word is robust. This is a wonderfully robust stew. It implies strength and depth of flavor.
And the opposite, for delicate flavors that you have to pay attention to notice.
That would be subtle. The hint of saffron is very subtle, but it's absolutely brilliant. Complementing subtlety is a high-level move because it shows you have a refined palate.
We also need words for texture, for mouthfeel, for something smooth and creamy, like a perfect soup or mousse.
The word is velvety. The texture of this chocolate mousse is just velvety.
And what about that C2 word for a rich, oily, luxurious texture, used in a good way?
That is unctuous, a word you might use for bone marrow or a slow-cooked piece of pork belly. The richness of this is gloriously unctuous. It conveys a sense of deep indulgence.
And for something incredibly light that seems to just melt in your mouth?
The word is ethereal. The lightness of this soufflé is almost ethereal. It's the highest possible compliment you can pay to delicacy.
Okay, we've mastered praise. Now for the ultimate C2 test. The polite complaint. How to fix a problem without a confrontation.
Rule number 1. You always start with a softener. You have to apologize for the inconvenience you're about to cause.
So you start with something like, I'm so sorry to be a bother, but...
Or, excuse me, I hate to have to mention this, but it completely disarms the server. It shows you're a reasonable person.
And then when you state the problem, you use subjective, tentative language.
Exactly. It's your personal experience, not an objective fact. So instead of, this steak is tough.
You say, I'm finding my steak to be a little on the tough side.
Perfect. Or instead of, my soup is cold, you say, I'm afraid my soup seems to have gone a bit cold. Seems to have gone. It softens the blow and allows them to fix it without losing face.
But isn't that just being manipulative? You're just using polite words to get what you want.
That is a great question. And it gets to the heart of what C2 communication is. It's not manipulation, it's diplomacy. Confrontation in a service setting is stressful for everyone.
Right.
These softeners exist to reduce that stress. By framing it as your subjective experience, you open the door for them to collaborate with you on a solution. Instead of just getting defensive, which a blunt statement will always cause, you're managing the emotional tone of the conversation.
And if they brought you the completely wrong dish...
You frame it as a mutual mistake, a misunderstanding. You say, I think there may have been a slight misunderstanding.
Yeah.
It takes the blame off the server directly and allows them to fix the error gracefully.
Mastering this ensures that even a bad situation can become a positive interaction.
It does. Okay, we are on to the final rituals. Ordering wine and paying the bill. Both are full of social traps.
So we're talking to the sommelier, the wine expert. The goal is to sound knowledgeable, but not arrogant.
Right. For red wine, you need to talk about its body and its tannins.
So if I want a big, powerful red, I'd say,
I'm in the mood for something full-bodied and robust. But if you want something lighter, you'd say.
I'm looking for a red that's a little lighter on the palate, maybe something with soft tannins.
Using terms like soft tannins gives the sommelier a professional starting point, because you know what you're talking about.
And for white wine, we go beyond just dry or sweet.
We talk about acidity and texture. For a zingy, refreshing white, you'd say, I'd love something crisp and zesty with good minerality.
Minerality, that's a great C2 word. And for a richer, maybe oak-aged white,
You'd ask for something with more complexity and a buttery texture. That will point them directly to an fruit Chardonnay, for example.
Okay, now for the most awkward moment of all. How to tell them your budget without actually saying a number.
This is a beautiful, silent negotiation. When the sommelier hands you the wine list, you discreetly use your finger to point to a wine on the list that is in your price range.
And as you're pointing, you ask a question about that wine.
Exactly. I see the Sauvignon Blanc here. Could you tell me about the vintage? By pointing, you have given them a nonverbal price anchor. They will now know to recommend other wines around that same price. It's genius.
And everyone's dignity is intact. Then comes the tasting ritual. They pour you a tiny amount. What is the sole purpose of this taste?
This is so important. You are not checking to see if you like the wine. You're only checking to see if the wine has a fault.
Specifically if it's corked, which means it has a musty, wet cardboard smell.
Right. So if the wine is fine, you just give a simple nod and say, "That's lovely, thank you." Or "Perfect, thank you."
Yeah.
And that's your signal for them to pour for the rest of the table.
The wine ritual is complete. Finally, the final act, settling up.
The C2 speaker doesn't just shout, "Check, please." You use subtle cues, like putting your napkin on the table. And when you do ask, you're deferential.
Whenever you have a moment, we're ready to settle up.
Settle up is a very natural phrasal verb. Or another great one is, "Could we have the bill when you're ready, please?"
The bill arrives, and now we enter the payment dance.
That highly scripted ritual. Person A grabs the bill and says,
"Let me get this," or "This one's on me."
and person B is socially required to protest, even if they're happy to let them pay. "Oh no, you don't have to. Let's split it."
Then person A has to insist. "No, I insist. It was my pleasure, really."
And if person B accepts, they must immediately make a counterpromise to rebalance the social books.
This is the crucial line. "Well, thank you. That's so kind. You must let me get the next one."
That phrase is the social glue. It ensures the relationship stays balanced. Now, if you do genuinely want to split it, you say, "Shall we split it evenly?" Or the idiom, "Shall we go Dutch?"
And what if one person ordered way more than the other?
The sophisticated and considerate thing to do is to point that out yourself. Let's not split it evenly. I had the steak and 2 glasses of wine, so I should definitely pay a larger share.
That shows very high social awareness.
It does. And finally, tipping. The language on the bill is key. If it says service charge included,
You don't need to tip more if it says service is not included.
a tip is expected. But the trickiest one is discretionary service charge added.
Discretionary means optional.
It does. And if the service was genuinely awful, you have the right to politely ask for it to be removed, using all our polite complaint language.
"I'm sorry to be a bother, but I'm afraid the service tonight didn't meet our expectations."
So, we would like to ask you to remove the discretionary service charge. It's firm, but professional.
And having done all that, we make our graceful exit.
With one final reinforcing compliment. "Thank you so much. That was a wonderful evening. Everything was absolutely superb."
Yeah.
It just leaves everyone feeling good about the interaction.
And with that, our linguistic journey is complete. I mean, it's clear that for a proficient speaker, a restaurant interaction is this really complex social performance.
It is. It's a series of strategic collaborations. From asking for a quiet nook, to describing a dish as unctuous, to performing the payment dance, it's all about using language to create a better experience.
So what's the big takeaway here for you, the listener? We think the true measure of fluency isn't just about ordering the right food. It's the ability to handle a negative situation, a complaint, a mistake on the bill, and turn it into a positive, collaborative solution using grace and control.
So here's our challenge to you. The next time you dine out, try to use just one piece of this advanced strategy. Ask about the provenance of an ingredient. Or when the bill comes, firmly insist, "No, it was my pleasure." Focus on the strategy, not just memorizing the words.
Thank you for joining us for this very deep dive into the language of dining. We hope it's equipped you with the tools for survival and the finesse for true mastery.
Until next time, take care and happy sophisticated dining. Welcome back to the deep dive. So you're here because, well, you're intensely curious, right? You want to be thoroughly informed. And crucially, you just don't have the time to wade through all the dense source material.
You just want the good thing.
Just want the good stuff, exactly. Distilled and ready to use. So
Yeah.
we've done the work. We've synthesized the research, the articles, the expert strategies for this deep dive.
We have indeed. And for this dive, we're looking at some really fascinating insights on social strategy and I guess, high-level communication.
Yeah.
We are moving way beyond the basics of just, eating out, the sort of survival guide to restaurants.
Right.
Instead, we're focusing on how to genuinely master the social art of fine dining.
That's it. If you know how to read a menu and pay the bill, you've passed Dining 101.
That's the basics.
We're graduating today. We're moving into what we're calling the C1 advanced level. And our mission here is, I think, pretty critical. It's to transform dining out from just a routine into a sophisticated social performance. We want to give you the linguistic and social tools to master nuanced communication in what can be a pretty high-stakes setting.
And we should probably clarify what we mean by that by C1 level, because it's a common benchmark in linguistic studies.
Good point.
It assumes you're, near native in your fluency, and crucially, you have the ability to operate effectively diplomatically in these complex and demanding social situations.
Okay.
So at this level, dining out is it's so much more than just caloric intake. It is, like you said, a performance.
Right.
It's a subtle social game where every word, every little maneuver, it all contributes to the overall story you're creating for yourself and for your companions.
What about that?
Mastery here requires fluency, not just in the language of food, but in this highly refined language of diplomacy, expectation management, and strategic influence.
Strategic influence. I love that framing. It really puts the power back in your hands and the patron's hands. Okay, so let's unpack this journey.
Let's do it.
We're going to proceed chronologically. We're going to move through the entire dining experience from the moment you think about booking all the way to that sophisticated compliment you give on your way out the door.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to focus really intensely on the specific vocabulary and the strategies that convey genuine sophistication, finesse, and a level of social fluency that just sets you apart.
And we have to start before you even step foot inside the restaurant.
Absolutely.
The stage has to be secured, and the expectations have to be set from that very first interaction.
Exactly. So that initial interaction, the phone call or maybe that little note section on an online booking, that is your first real opportunity to perform.
It really is.
A beginner is just focused on logistics.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a table for 4 at 7:00 p.m.? But the advanced speaker is focused on setting the tone.
Yes. And controlling the physical environment.
Controlling the environment. We're immediately influencing how the staff perceives us.
And that influence starts by demanding specifics, but, and this is key, doing it subtly. This is where we see the first key linguistic strategy, specificity combined with, let's call it, exclusivity.
Okay.
The novice might just ask for a nice table, which is so vague, right? It leaves the host with way too much latitude.
Sure.
The C1 advanced speaker, though, is hoping to secure a quiet nook.
Quiet nook. Okay, let's push back on that for a second. Isn't that a little flowery? Maybe even pretentious? How do you say that and sound discerning, not just, demanding?
That is the beautiful subtlety of it. It's a positive instruction, but it's disguised as a hopeful preference. Quiet Nook is brilliant because it does so much heavy lifting without articulating a single negative thing.
I see.
It suggests a clear preference for intimacy, for comfort, for a space that's a little removed from the main flow of traffic. It signals a sophisticated understanding of ambience.
So you're implying you're not there to be seen, you're there for the conversation, for the quality of the experience.
Exactly. By using Quiet Nook, you are immediately establishing a standard. You're signaling to the staff that this is a guest who values the acoustic environment.
And expects a higher level of control.
Yes. And it completely bypasses the need to list all the spots you don't want.
Right, you don't have to say, not by the kitchen, not by the door.
Precisely. When a host hears Quiet Nook, they instantly get it. They know that 4 top jammed next to the service station or the drafty table by the entrance, that's not going to work.
You're preemptively influencing their decision.
You're articulating a desire for comfort and privacy without being overtly demanding or using crude negative language. You establish yourself as a patron with refined, specific needs right from the get-go.
It's about using precision vocabulary to manage expectations. Which brings us, I think, directly to another key piece of vocabulary for this stage, the word conspicuous.
Oh, this is pure social strategy executed through polished language. It is a masterclass in communicating what you might call negative space.
Negative space, I like that.
Avoiding the conspicuous is avoiding all those undesirable seats, the places where you feel exposed or where the machinery of the restaurant is just too visible.
We've all been there. That table where every single person walking past stares at you.
Or you're conspicuous to the staff as they're rushing back and forth. The beginner, you see, gets seated by the swinging kitchen door, realizes their mistake, and then maybe complains rudely, which creates instant conflict.
Whereas the advanced speaker mitigates that risk right in the booking process.
And the diplomatic function of the phrase is just so key here. You say, we'd prefer a table that isn't too conspicuous.
Okay, walk us through that. Why is that so much better strategically than just saying, hey, don't put us by the restroom?
Because the word conspicuous is sophisticated. It suggests you understand social dynamics, visibility, privacy.
Right.
When you use it, you're ensuring all those undesirable spots. The one by the wait station, the one by the entrance, the one next to the restroom door, they're all avoided. You've established that your personal preference is for discretion.
And you're not accusing them of anything.
You're not. You're stating a preference for discretion without sounding like you're giving them explicit negative instructions. If you mention the restroom, the host might feel like you're accusing them of trying to stick you in a bad spot.
Right.
But if you use conspicuous, you leave them room to save face while still getting what you want. It's non-confrontational control.
So it allows the staff to see you as a discerning guest, but one who expresses their standards in a sophisticated, low-conflict way.
And that is crucial for the rest of the evening because now you're a valued guest who communicated elegantly, not a difficult one who made demands.
It's all about setting that initial tone.
And don't forget the final cues when you arrive. The C1 speaker doesn't rush up to the host stand all frantic.
No.
They approach with poised confidence. They make eye contact, state their name and reservation time clearly, and maybe even add, "We're here for the quiet nook. Thank you."
Reinforcing the request.
It reinforces the request and sets a calm, controlled rhythm for the whole evening. The arrival just confirms the language of the reservation.
And with that, you've set the stage successfully. You've got the psychological and the physical space you need for the performance to continue at a really high level. Okay, so we've secured the perfect quiet nook. We're settled in. The next object that comes under our scrutiny is, of course, the menu. For the advanced speaker, this is not just a list of food and prices. It is a very carefully crafted marketing document.
Absolutely. It's designed to tell a story of provenance, of effort, of scarcity.
So the C1 speaker has to be able to read between the lines, to recognize those high-value words, the adjectives, the verbs that signal quality and effort.
And to understand the economic story they're supporting. Every single word on that menu is deliberate. It's selected to justify the price and to elevate the experience before you've even tasted anything.
So our job is to decode what those words are actually promising and I guess what they might be masking.
That's it.
Okay, let's start with the strategic vocabulary. The high-value adjectives that describe where the ingredients come from. We always see the word artisanal.
Yes.
In simple terms, it means handmade. But what's the deeper social and economic story it's signaling?
Artisanal is such a powerful marker in the modern food economy. It signals intense, skilled human labor, usually on a small, non-industrial scale.
Right. It's the opposite of mass-produced.
It's an immediate rejection of that. Whether it's cheese or bread or charcuterie, the word suggests an expert craftsperson made this, following traditional methods, where the touch of the human hand is central to its quality.
It's the linguistic way of saying, this was slow, this was painstaking, and therefore it's worthy of a premium price.
And the unspoken promise of artisanal is consistency with character. You expect tiny variations because it's handmade, but the overall quality standard has to be exceptionally high.
It reflects the craftsman's dedication.
Precisely. It allows for those minor imperfections, the hallmark of the human touch, which paradoxically actually increase its perceived value and authenticity.
Okay, then we have heritage. We see this a lot with meats and vegetables.
Heritage speaks to authenticity, to history, and often to rarity, and it connects directly to biological diversity.
How so?
It usually applies to breeds of livestock or varieties of vegetables that are older. Sometimes they've even been rescued from near extinction. And critically, they have a deeper, more distinct flavor than modern commercial types.
Which have just been bred for, yield and transportability.
Exactly, and rapid growth. So when you see heritage pork, you're meant to understand that the chef has sourced a very specific breed, one that maybe marblazes fat differently or takes longer to mature.
Resulting in superior flavor.
It's a commitment to the integrity of the ingredient, even if it means a higher cost and, a longer supply chain. It connects you to a deeper history of food.
So it signals the chef values flavor over industrial efficiency.
Which elevates the dish. Yes. It's all about historical significance and flavor depth.
And now for the word that I think carries the most dramatic story of all, Foraged.
Foraged is maybe the most dramatic word on the menu, and for good reason. The source material we looked at suggests this word deliberately evokes this powerful, almost romantic image.
Yeah, I'm picturing a chef in boots at dawn.
Exactly. A chef, or maybe a specialized gatherer, wandering through a forest looking for wild ramps or specific mushrooms.
So it implies this narrative of intense effort and quality that goes so far beyond just, buying from a commercial supplier.
It signals rarity, seasonality, and the chef's personal commitment to finding the purest, most unexpected ingredients out there.
And the key to the narrative of foraged is that active pursuit, that freshness.
Yes. It suggests the ingredient was available for only a short window and was acquired through physical effort and specific expertise.
Right.
This vocabulary elevates the dish from simple food prep to an almost primal act of sourcing, which justifies an incredibly high perceived value.
We're not just paying for the mushroom, we're paying for the story of its discovery.
And even if the chef just bought it from a specialist distributor who did the foraging, the narrative of intense, individualized effort remains intact for you, the diner.
The C1 speaker recognizes that this word is a premium status indicator.
It communicates scarcity and high labor cost no matter the precise logistics.
Okay, so let's move from the ingredients to the strategic verbs. As we said, food isn't just cooked anymore. The advanced menu uses precise verbs to detail the process. Why is that so important?
They're proof points, proof of culinary skill and precision. When food is described with a specific technical verb, it tells you exactly what happened to it, and importantly, it implies a successful outcome.
So instead of cooked in a pan, we see pan-seared. What's the technical precision there?
Pan-seared implies a very high-heat, fast cooking method. It creates that crisp, flavorful crust, the Maillard reaction, while carefully preserving a tender interior.
It signals precision and textural contrast,
Which is a key element of high-level cooking. It tells you the chef controlled the temperature perfectly to get that exact result.
Or instead of boiled, which sounds so crude,
Right.
we might see blanched, especially for green vegetables.
Blanching is a very specific technique. You submerge ingredients briefly in boiling water and then plunge them immediately into ice water.
That's called shocking, right?
It is, and it instantly stops the cooking, so it preserves the color, the firmness, the nutrients. It shows care and attention to both aesthetics and structure. Your broccoli is bright green and has a bite. It's not dull and soggy.
And finally, the word cured. That one implies a real time commitment.
A huge time commitment. Cured implies a preservation process with salt, sugar, smoke, often over a long period.
So it signals complex flavor development.
And significant time investment. A cured duck breast has gone through a long, deliberate process that concentrates and enhances its flavor far beyond a simple, fresh preparation. It's a promise of deep, developed flavor.
So when we put all those verbs and adjectives together, what's the ultimate psychological effect for the advanced speaker?
The result is that these words tell a rich, multi-layered story on your tongue before you even take a single bite.
Wow.
The C1 speaker knows this vocabulary is meticulously designed to manage their expectation and maximize the perceived value. You're not just reading a description, you're internalizing a promise of high-quality, intense effort and culinary skill.
Reading the menu becomes an intellectual exercise.
In decoding the chef's intentions.
Yes. And the deeper you decode that intention, the higher your expectations become. But what happens when that meticulously built expectation is shattered? And that brings us to the ultimate test of C1 fluency. Dealing with disappointment gracefully. Okay, so this is where things can really, really unravel. You've secured your quiet nook, you've decoded the heritage pork narrative, the wine is flowing, and then food is bad. It's cold, it's overcooked, it just doesn't match the promise. This is the moment of truth, the ultimate test of fluency and social grace.
It is the critical moment.
How do you register dissatisfaction without being accusatory or rude?
The beginner panics. They resort to passive aggression or just outright rudeness.
Yeah.
But the advanced speaker understands that conflict resolution in a high-stakes social setting is the true benchmark of mastery. Your goal here is service recovery, not vengeance.
Okay, so let's start with the cardinal rule.
Yeah.
Avoidance of direct accusation. Why can we absolutely never say something direct like, this steak is tough?
Because that instantly creates an adversarial relationship.
Right.
It places the blame squarely and personally on the kitchen or maybe on the server, and that just leads to defensiveness, delays, and an unpleasant emotional experience for everyone.
Conflict is the enemy of the performance.
It is, and it's counterproductive to getting your problem solved. The goal is to move from personal critique to professional resolution.
So we need to use this clever linguistic trick that professional diners and, well, diplomats use. Framing the complaint as a subjective experience. Tell us about the power of the phrase, "I'm finding it."
This is linguistic genius applied to conflict resolution. The phrasing is so precise and so crucial. I'm finding my steak to be a little on the tough side.
Or, "I'm finding the sauce doesn't quite complement the fish."
Exactly. By using the verb finding, you make the issue about your personal, subjective perception at this specific moment.
So it's not a definitive, objective judgment on their professional product.
It's not. It completely shifts the psychological dynamic. You are not saying your cook failed. You're expressing a subjective disconnect between your expectation and your sensory reality.
And that framing is incredibly diplomatic.
Because it invites the waiter to act as your ally, to intervene and solve your personalized issue without having to get into a fight about whether the food is actually tough or not.
That distinction is huge because it lets the server empathize and assist, rather than becoming a defensive gatekeeper for the kitchen.
They can act on your subjective experience immediately, and this diplomacy pays off in the speed of the service recovery. They want to restore your positive experience because you approach them with grace.
You're not challenging them, you're inviting them to do their job, which is hospitality and problem solving.
Their highest function, yes.
Okay, quick scenario. The food is cold. How does a C1 speaker phrase that using the subjective frame, avoiding the word cold?
You would say something like, I'm finding the temperature of the halibut isn't quite where I expected it to be for the best enjoyment.
Focusing on enjoyment.
Or, I'm finding this soup is cooling down much faster than I anticipated. C. We're focusing on the expectation of temperature, not the objective state of the food, which sounds like an accusation of incompetence.
Got it. Now, there's an alternative phrase, an evasion. This isn't quite what I was expecting. When would you use that one?
That's a masterclass in subtle disappointment, especially when the issue isn't a technical flaw, but maybe a flavor mismatch.
Okay.
It's diplomatic because it sidesteps the judgment of quality entirely. You haven't said the food is bad, you've just stated there's a mismatch between your internal expectation.
Which is often built by their beautiful menu narrative.
Exactly. You're holding them accountable to their own marketing. If the dish was described as foraged and heritage and it comes out looking lackluster, saying this isn't quite what I was expecting, is highly effective.
It's deeply strategic. It gently prompts them to look at the dish through the lens of their own promise.
It is. And it invites a solution, a fix, a replacement without a confrontational judgment. You maintain control, you minimize emotional expenditure, and the performance continues.
Okay, so we've navigated the complaint. We maybe even have a better dish now. But we're facing what many people consider the most intimidating part of the whole experience.
Indeed. The universal intimidator.
The wine list. The wine list. This can halt the whole sophisticated performance dead in its tracks if you just say, I'll have the house red.
Or worse, just point blindly at the third bottle from the top.
Yes. For the advanced speaker, the wine list is not a test to be feared. It's another opportunity to show precise knowledge and control using very targeted vocabulary.
The C1 speaker overcomes that intimidation by using specific vocabulary that signals to the sommelier that you understand the domain. You're looking for a partnership, not, a lecture.
You're moving beyond simple preferences like sweet or dry and into structural preferences.
That's the key.
So instead of, I want a red wine, what are the descriptive terms we need to sound fluent and command respect?
You need to move into structural and sensory descriptors. So for structure, you might request something full-bodied.
Okay, what does that signal?
It signals you want a wine with substantial weight and texture in your mouth, usually higher in alcohol and tannin, like a bold Cabernet Sauvignon. It's a precise request about the wine's physical presence.
Or if the meal is lighter, you might ask for something crisp, focusing on the acidity.
Precisely. Crisp signals high acidity, which is essential for cutting through rich or fatty foods. Using terms like crisp or high acid shows you understand how wine and food interact chemically on the palate.
And what about conveying depth or complexity? We mentioned earthy.
Earthy is an excellent one because it implies complexity beyond just simple fruit flavors. It suggests secondary notes like mushroom, forest floor, damp soil, minerals.
Right.
This is the language of a sophisticated palate. You're showing you appreciate nuance and the effects of aging or terroir. Using these terms establishes immediate credibility with the sommelier. You're speaking their language.
So let's go a bit deeper. A novice might ask for a smooth red wine. What is the C1 speaker asking for, and why is it superior?
Right. When a novice says smooth, they usually just mean they want lower tannin, which is what creates that drying, mouth-puckering feeling.
Okay.
A C1 speaker might specify they want a wine that is integrative and supple, meaning the tannins are fully integrated and velvety, which indicates maturity and quality winemaking.
Ah, so you're describing the cause, not just the feeling.
Exactly. That's the difference between beginner and advanced fluency.
Okay, now for the big one.
Yeah.
Budget. Talking about money can just shatter that elegant atmosphere we've worked so hard to build.
It can.
So how does the C1 speaker communicate their budget without actually saying a price out loud?
This might be the most elegant strategy in the entire repertoire because it uses nonverbal communication in a verbal setting. It keeps the focus entirely on quality and character and keeps the dollars out of the audible conversation.
Okay, walk us through the method, the specific nonverbal method.
So you scan the wine list, you let the sommelier see you looking, then you point to a bottle on the menu that costs exactly what you're willing to spend.
Or thereabouts.
Or thereabouts, yes. And you ask with a thoughtful tone, could you tell me a little about this one? I'm intrigued by the vintage.
And what does that physical action, that pointing, immediately communicate to a trained sommelier?
It communicates the price range without a single word about cost. The sommelier instantly understands your budget is right around the price of the bottle you're pointing at. They've been given a reference point.
So they can then tailor their recommendations to that unspoken financial envelope.
Yes, they might suggest something similar that's $10 less, or confirm that the bottle you pointed to is an excellent value.
That is elegant. You keep the conversation on the quality of the wine while discreetly ensuring the final recommendation is affordable for you.
And it protects the sommelier too. They're now working within a known constraint and can avoid the faux pas of presenting a bottle that's way outside your comfort zone.
It's mastery of nonverbal cueing in a high-pressure situation.
It is. You're controlling the constraints of the conversation without ever having to acknowledge the constraints of your wallet.
What if the bottle you point to is sold out? How do you pivot?
Great question. A great scenario test. You don't panic. You maintain the frame. You'd respond, that's a shame. In that case, based on its flavor profile and vintage, what would be the most comparable offering you have that you feel offers similar value?
Ooh, the shift to value.
The shift to value is key. It reinforces that the previous bottle was a marker for quality and price, subtly guiding the sommelier right back into the same financial territory.
We are nearing the end of the performance. The food was exquisite. The wine selection was perfect thanks to our nonverbal cues, and the conversation was sparkling. This final stage has two absolutely key elements: the social ritual of paying and the concluding compliment.
The exit isn't just logistics, it's the final act. It cements the lasting impression you leave with the staff and, maybe more importantly, with your companions.
So if the complaint was the ultimate fluency test, the payment and compliment are the final display of social grace.
And ritual adherence, yes.
Okay, let's talk about what you call the payment dance.
Yeah.
This is that unavoidable social ritual that happens when two or more people are dining together.
It's pure social theater that must be observed for the performance to be complete, especially in cultures that value these ritualistic displays of generosity.
So even if one person knows they're paying, there's still a required exchange of phrases.
Oh, absolutely.
Walk us through the dialogue. What are the lines that have to be exchanged?
So the sequence is a formal escalating insistence. When the check comes, the person who intends to pay has to make the first move, reaching for it and saying, please, no, I insist, let me take care of this.
Okay.
The other person is then socially obligated to perform the rejection and counter-insistence. Something like, nonsense, we'll be splitting this, or you must let me get this one.
But why? If they know you're paying, why do they have to do that?
Because the ritual validates the social dynamic. It's a performative display of valuing the other person's company more than the cost of the meal. By doing the dance, the non-payer is performing respect. They're showing they don't take the gesture for granted. It protects their social face. If they just concede immediately, it feels transactional, not generous.
So the C1 speaker observes the ritual. They wait for the full no, I insist. No, absolutely not.
Or just
Shame.
more than 30 seconds, maybe.
And then, only then, do they accept the role of payer with a final gracious line like, very well then, next time it is entirely on you.
Exactly. You're adhering to the norms, you're confirming your fluency, you're showing respect for the etiquette.
It shows you understand it's about the relationship, not just the transaction.
Precisely.
Okay, once that's done, we move to the final piece of linguistic mastery. The sophisticated compliment on the way out. We have to do better than a simple, hurried thanks.
A hurried thanks is for the cashier at a convenience store. This performance requires nuanced appreciation that reflects the effort we've recognized all evening.
You deliver to someone with authority.
Yeah.
Right, the host, the manager.
Yes. And you start with elevated adjectives like, the meal was exquisite.
Exquisite, that's a powerful word. What does it convey that great or delicious doesn't?
Exquisite implies not just deliciousness, but high refinement, delicate execution, exceptional quality. It borders on artistic achievement, which is how the C1 speaker views fine dining.
It's high praise for the chef's craft.
And the server's finesse?
Yep.
It's precise.
And now for the ultimate compliment. The word that you say instantly finalizes the performance of expertise, using the word triumph.
To say it was a triumph elevates the experience far beyond just a successful service. A triumph signifies a great victory, a monumental achievement, often against complex challenges.
And in a culinary context.
It implies the entire team mastered the complex challenges of sourcing, preparation, timing, and presentation. They delivered a meal that was the absolute pinnacle of their collective abilities.
And our source material notes, this makes you sound like a food critic.
And that's the goal. By using that term, you're showing you can not only consume the sophisticated product, but assess and critique it using advanced, domain-specific language.
You've affirmed your own role as a discerning connoisseur.
You've finalized your performance. And a compliment like triumph is a huge morale booster for the staff. They feel seen. They feel like someone who understands the difficulty truly appreciated it.
It's the final punctuation mark on a flawless social performance. Hashtag, outro. And that brings us to the end of our chronological journey. So for you, the learner, the key takeaway from achieving the C1 advanced level in dining diplomacy is this. Every single stage requires this granular attention to nuance, from securing that quiet nook to decoding the narrative of heritage pork to ultimately calling the entire evening a triumph.
The challenge isn't just to eat.
No, the challenge is to meticulously control and perform the experience with grace and linguistic precision.
And if we connect this all back to the bigger picture, these techniques are so much more than just dining skills. They are transferable strategies for managing social expectations and resolving conflict in any context.
That's a great point.
That subjective frame, I'm finding it to be, that's a powerful de-escalation tool anywhere. The nonverbal communication about budget, that's a strategy for any uncomfortable financial discussion.
Yeah, the sophisticated praise is a tool for professional relationship building.
True fluency is about mastering those moments where social dynamics are tested, ensuring you can navigate high-stakes situations with efficacy and in control.
It's about showing you understand the social contract of sophistication and demanding it be honored without ever breaking diplomacy.
Precisely. And this leads us to a final provocative thought for you to consider the next time you're decoding a menu or hearing a compliment delivered.
Okay.
We've established that the deliberate use of words like foraged, artisanal, and triumph manages expectation and conveys status. But does this sophisticated language actually correlate consistently to measurably better food quality? Or does it primarily function as a marker of social status, a way for both the restaurant and the diner to signal their position in the cultural and economic hierarchy, maybe even independent of the actual culinary product?
Something profound to mull over next time you are quietly securing your secluded table and ordering something robust and supple. Go forth and perform.
Indeed. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the art of dining diplomacy.
Thank you for listening. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're putting away the complex theories and pulling up a chair.
Sounds good.
Because we are diving into one of the most crucial yet, often overlooked areas of advanced English fluency.
And social success, really.
And social success. We're talking about dining diplomacy.
It's a mission, I think, that a lot of advanced learners just sort of bypass. They can nail a complex quarterly report or, debate international policy. But then they falter The wine is poured. The conversation shifts from that formal business talk to, well, to intimate social navigation, and that's a whole different ballgame.
That is the challenge, isn't it? Our source material today, it's like a masterclass, not in cooking, but in conversation, in situational awareness.
Right.
The goal isn't just to eat the food. It's to confidently and charmingly navigate that critical social phase of the meal, that middle part where your English has to be natural.
And idiomatic.
And idiomatic, and above all, genuinely polite, non-intrusive. We are moving way, way past the territory of simple requests and basic acknowledgments.
I mean, if you want to transform from just a functional English speaker into a truly sophisticated dining companion, this deep dive is, well, it's definitely for you.
So we're talking about that C1, C2 level performance.
We are. And the fluency that's required at the dinner table, it's less about memorizing complex grammar and much more about what you'd call pragmatic nuance.
Okay, so what does that mean in practice?
It's about knowing when to use a social buffer, a softening phrase. It's about understanding how to use hyperbole exaggeration to signal that you're relaxed and that you really appreciate something.
And the art of the euphemism.
The art of the perfect, non-awkward euphemism. Mastering these things, it gives you a huge social advantage.
How so?
Well, it lets you build rapport effortlessly. You establish trust. And you get to focus entirely on the person across the table from you, rather than, worrying about translating the right words in your head.
Okay, let's unpack this. And let's start with the most enjoyable part of the journey. The food is arriving. So we all know the basic response, right? A plate hits a table and you say, it looks good.
Or it's tasty.
It's tasty. And look, that is functional communication. It gets the job done.
Sure.
But in a semi-formal or a formal setting, or maybe you're dining with a host who you really want to acknowledge that kind of minimalist language, it just falls flat.
It really does. It can almost sound a bit dismissive.
Right. We need language that conveys genuine, advanced enthusiasm, something that appeals to the senses and shows that you're engaging with the experience completely.
You've hit on the key distinction right there. The goal of dining diplomacy is to show thoughtfulness. When you use these overly simple, generic phrases, you risk sounding disinterested.
Which can feel impolite.
Which can inadvertently be seen as impolite, absolutely. No. Especially if you're dining with the person who actually cooked the meal or, chose the restaurant for you.
So these advanced compliments, they signal engagement.
Engagement, attention to detail, and frankly, sophistication.
Okay, so let's tackle that first moment of anticipation. The waiter or the host places the dish down. The presentation is stunning, and you haven't even picked up your fork yet.
That critical moment.
Our source highlights a fantastic phrase for this, for conveying that visual appeal and that intense anticipation. And the phrase is, this looks absolutely mouth-watering.
Okay, let's break that down because it's fascinating how much power and efficiency is packed into that one phrase.
Go on.
Well, mouth-watering is a brilliant compound adjective. It's so effective because it refers to a direct, physical, almost involuntary reaction salivation.
Right, your mouth is literally watering.
Exactly. It's the body's immediate primal sign of intense desire for food. So you're signaling an expectation that is genuinely physically high. It's not just an opinion.
That's a great point. I never thought of it that way. It's not like saying, this looks appetizing.
Which is so lukewarm, isn't it? Appetizing is an opinion. Mouth-watering it's a physiological response you're describing. It's much more powerful.
And what about the intensifier, the word absolutely? It seems to do a lot of heavy lifting here. Why choose absolutely over something, simpler like very?
That choice is, I think, central to performing at that C1, C2 level. Very is fine. It's useful.
But it's a bit tired.
It's overworked. And it lacks punch when you pair it with really strong adjectives. Absolutely, on the other hand, it operates on a higher register. It conveys sincerity, a kind of commitment to the emotion.
So this looks very good is weak.
It's weak. But when you pair a powerful word like mouth-watering with an equally strong intensifier like absolutely, you're confirming that your appreciation is total. It's immediate. It's like a verbal guarantee of your excitement.
And we dig into the linguistics of it. Absolutely tends to work best with what they call non-gradable or extreme adjectives, right? And even though you can technically grade mouth-watering, the pairing just feels definitive.
It feels definitive. It makes the statement feel less like an exaggeration and more like a sincere declaration of your high expectations.
And this is so important for the what you call the social temperature of the table.
Precisely. You're complimenting the host's choice or the restaurant's skill before you've even tasted it. You haven't even confirmed the quality yet.
So you're managing expectation.
And you're immediately injecting this positive energy right at the start of the meal. A high-energy compliment like this it's like the conversational equivalent of giving a standing ovation before the show even starts.
I like that.
It just sets this magnetic, positive tone.
We should also consider the alternative, which is silence. The waiter sets down this beautiful dish and you just stare at it.
Awkward.
Yeah, that silent appreciation can feel really cold.
Yeah.
This looks absolutely mouth-watering. It just fills that specific conversational void perfectly.
It's a fantastic way to break the ice and pivot to the next phase of the meal. Now, if you wanted an alternative that focuses more on the artistry, you could say something like, the presentation of this is superb, or what a work of art.
Nice. But I feel like the sensory language of mouth-watering is still hard to beat.
It really is. It connects directly to desire. I will say, though, if you were in a slightly more understated setting, perhaps in parts of the UK where absolutely might feel a little too enthusiastic or performative.
A bit American, maybe?
A little. Maybe you could substitute it with something like, this looks wonderfully appealing, but again, that physiological descriptor, that's still the key.
Okay, so we've moved past the visual, we've taken that first bite, and it's genuinely exceptional. It deserves high praise.
The moment of truth.
Our source offers a dramatic but, very common hyperbolic idiom for this. This is to die for.
This is a textbook example of how advanced speakers use what I'd call acceptable hyperbole.
Acceptable hyperbole. Explain that.
Okay, so if you used to die for in, say, a serious business negotiation or a political debate, you'd completely undermine your credibility. You'd sound overly dramatic, maybe even unprofessional. But at the dinner table, hyperbole, this is a signal. It signals relaxation. It signals familiarity. And most importantly, it signals the sincerity of your appreciation.
So it tells your dining companion something specific about your state of mind.
It tells them, I am comfortable enough with you to use colorful, informal language, and my appreciation for this food is so high that it actually merits this extreme description.
It's interesting because the goal of sounding sophisticated often means using less literal and more exaggerated language. A beginner might worry. They might think this sounds, literal, like you'd actually die for the food.
And that's the subtlety you master at the C1, C2 level. The native or fluent speaker understands immediately that the phrase is metaphorical. It's lighthearted.
So what does it really mean?
It means, essentially, this food is of such an incredibly high quality that it justifies an extreme, irrational, or, maybe even a humorous sacrifice. The context just immediately frames it as warm, high praise.
It feels more impactful than saying something like, this is the best I've ever had.
Oh, much more. And ironically, the best I've ever had often sounds less sincere simply because it's so overused. To die for has a certain punch to it.
Are there times when even this phrase would be inappropriate?
Absolutely. If you're dining with someone you perceive to be extremely traditional, maybe deeply reserved, or you're in a very, very strict, formal, diplomatic setting,
then you might pull it back a bit.
You pull it back. You might lean towards words like superb or exquisite or this is exceptional. But for, I'd say, 90% of semi-formal and casual dining, to die for is a fantastic conversational lubricant.
A conversational lubricant.
It is. It often gets a positive response, a shared laugh, a nod of agreement, and that just enhances the convivial atmosphere. You're establishing a shared, high-level appreciation for the moment.
And what about some alternatives, other idioms that get a similar high praise effect?
Well, you could use something like, this is heavenly. That's a classic. Or, a bit more informally, this really hits the spot. Though hit the spot is more about satisfying a specific craving than describing, supreme quality.
Right, like a cold drink on a hot day.
Exactly. A highly evocative C2 phrase might be something like, I'm savoring every single bite.
Oh, that's good. It's less dramatic than to die for.
It is, but savoring implies this intense focus and deliberate enjoyment. So again, you're signaling a very high level of appreciation for the chef's efforts. The key structure to remember is the short, punchy, declarative nature of these idioms. They maximize impact, but they don't disrupt the flow of conversation.
Okay, now let's get even more granular. We're moving from that high-level emotional reaction to the physical experience in your mouth.
The texture.
Yes, the texture. Our source highlights a specific phrase that's perfect for this. It melts in your mouth.
This is so critical because sophisticated culinary compliments, they go beyond basic taste, sweet, salty, sour. They focus on texture, temperature, aroma.
And melts in your mouth is the ultimate compliment for something tender.
The ultimate. Think of a beautifully braised lamb shank, a delicate piece of fish, or, an expertly crafted chocolate truffle. That's what this phrase was made for.
And why is that so much better than just saying, it's very soft?
Because soft is a basic descriptor. It lacks imagery. It's a bit clinical.
Okay.
Melting your mouth, on the other hand, it uses the physical process of melting, that transformation from solid to liquid, to convey the effortless breakdown of the food.
It suggests that chewing is almost unnecessary.
It's almost superfluous, exactly. It suggests the food is so incredibly delicate that it just transforms on contact with the warmth of your tongue and palate. When you use this phrase, you're subtly showing that you recognize and appreciate the technical skill that was required to achieve that level of tenderness.
It shifts the focus from a simple observation to the experience of consumption. Saying, the steak was tender is just stating a fact. Saying, I swear, it just melted in my mouth is, well, you're sharing an image. You're sharing an experience and a strong positive emotion.
Precisely. And this is where the advanced speaker really differentiates themselves. They don't just speak about the food, they speak about the sensory journey the food provides.
What if something is crunchy? How would you apply the same principle?
Great question. If you're discussing a dish with many layers of texture, you might use a phrase like, the contrast between the crisp pastry and the creamy filling is perfection.
I see. So you're describing the relationship between the textures.
You are. And notice how both examples, melts and contrast, they move beyond simple adjectives. They use verbs or nouns that describe a process. Melting, contrasting, transforming.
And if we connect this all back to the broader goal, using this kind of specific sensory language elevates you from just being a passive consumer
to being an active, appreciative participant in the entire dining experience.
Which I imagine makes you a more compelling person to talk to.
It certainly does. It shows you're present, you're paying attention, and you're capable of articulating nuanced feelings. That level of detailed observation is always a social asset.
All right, now we have to pivot from pleasure to necessity.
Uh-oh.
We're deep in a fascinating conversation, maybe mid-story, and nature calls.
This is a high-risk social moment.
It really is. Because if you default to a direct translation, like so many language learners are trained to do, you could just disrupt the flow and cause widespread awkwardness. Our source is very emphatic about this. Announcing, I'm going to the toilet, is just too direct. It's too clinical, too intrusive for polite company.
It is absolutely crucial to understand the social rules of the table here. The dining table is a shared space. It's dedicated to conversation and enjoyment, not physiological reality.
That's a good way to put it.
By introducing the direct biological necessity of your departure, you force everyone else at the table to acknowledge a private function, and that just breaches a boundary of social privacy.
So this is where mastering the euphemism, that polite, non-intrusive phrase, becomes the very definition of dining diplomacy.
It is the definition.
So the source material provides what it calls the gold standard, the phrase that requires zero explanation, demands no real acknowledgement, and acts as the perfect social shield.
And that is?
If you'll excuse me for a moment.
The linguistic genius here is in its simplicity. It's just perfectly constructed.
Why does it work so well?
Well, look at the structure. It's a conditional request.
Yeah.
If you will grant me permission to step away, it's not a forceful declaration of what you're about to do.
So it's deferential.
It's very deferential. And the beauty of it is that you don't need to specify your destination at all. The implied understanding is that you have a brief, necessary errand that takes you away from the group.
By using, if you'll excuse me, you're showing respect for the group. You're positioning yourself as the interrupter who is politely asking for a brief pause.
Exactly. And the second part of that phrase, for a moment, is also cute, right?
It manages expectations immediately.
That temporal qualifier is so important for managing the social flow. It implies the interruption will be minimal. You plan a swift return. Crucially, the phrase is entirely focused on the social action, excusing yourself, not the physical necessity.
You're avoiding that conversational black hole of having to explain why you're leaving.
Which is always the goal of a good euphemism.
You know, I often hear learners try to translate things like, I need to step out. And while that's better than saying toilet, it still sounds a bit managerial, maybe.
Yep.
A bit too abrupt.
Exactly. if you'll excuse me for a moment, is just softer. It's gentler because it centers the phrase on the permission you're seeking, not the action you're taking. And it's universally applicable.
How so?
It works if you need the restroom. It works if you need to take a quick private phone call. It works if you just need a minute to gather your thoughts. It is the ultimate non-committal diplomatic phrase for any context.
Okay, but what if you feel the need to offer a little hint, a vague hint? Perhaps you're with close friends or you just want to signal you'll be back soon.
Right, for a slightly less formal situation.
Our source suggests a couple of slightly more specific alternatives. The acceptable ones are, I'm just going to wash my hands, or the highly flexible, I'm going to freshen up.
Let's spend a minute on freshen up. This is the quintessential social buffer.
A social buffer.
Its brilliance lies in its extreme, almost poetic vagueness. To freshen up means to make minor, necessary adjustments to your appearance or your comfort level.
Oh, okay.
It implies a kind of self-maintenance that is geared toward the collective good of the table. You're ensuring you return as a polished, engaged companion.
So it's not really about the action itself, but the implication of the action.
Absolutely. It implies a kind of professionalism and preparedness. You're stepping away to make sure you're in peak social condition. It's a very polite, non-intrusive way of communicating necessity without detailing the necessity itself.
So choosing this vague, polite option over a direct one shows an advanced understanding of conversational subtlety.
It does. It shows you're prioritizing the comfort of your companions over blunt honesty.
And what about, I'm just going to wash my hands? That feels specific, but somehow it's still very safe.
It's what you'd call a socially acceptable proxy phrase. It's specific enough to provide a brief explanation.
Nobody's going to question it.
Nobody. Because hand washing is intrinsically linked to the social act of eating and hygiene. So it carries zero associated awkwardness. It's clean, it's quick, and it's a perfectly acceptable explanation.
Is there any time you'd avoid that one?
The only context might be if you're in a very, very high-stakes political or formal setting, where even that little bit of specificity could be seen as slightly distracting. In those cases, you always default back to, if you'll excuse me for a moment.
I'm going to challenge that a little bit. What if a listener hears a much more formal, maybe an older phrase like, I must attend to nature's call?
That's a great contrast. Phrases like, attend to nature's call. They're highly stylized. They often sound archaic now or even overly dramatic.
So they draw more attention.
They draw more attention to themselves. While it's technically a euphemism, it signals this kind of stiff formality that can actually be more distracting than the simpler options we've discussed. The C1, C2 speaker is aiming for sophisticated naturalness.
Right, not theatricality.
Exactly. And that often means using efficient common phrases like freshen up rather than these elaborate dated circumlocutions. The goal is to minimize the conversational speed bump, not create a whole performance out of a necessary break.
Okay, let's move to the real test of dining diplomacy.
Crisis management.
Crisis management. The conversation is flowing beautifully, and then disaster strikes. You knock over a full glass, maybe red wine, on a pristine white tablecloth.
Or worse.
Or worse, onto a companion. This moment is a true high-stakes test of social grace.
It really is.
And our source is clear. The key is to maintain your dignity and take immediate, decisive responsibility without resorting to emotional overload.
This is where preparation really pays off, because panic makes people revert to simplistic, often counterproductive language.
What's the priority in that moment?
The priority is managing the social temperature before you manage the physical spill. The most important thing is the group's comfort, not your personal embarrassment.
So the source material explicitly warns against the common reaction, which is the over-apology.
Sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Right, repeating it 10 times or making these loud, desperate declarations of your own error. Why does that backfire so badly in a diplomatic setting?
Because repetitive apologies signal a lack of internal control, and they significantly increase the tension in the room.
How do they do that?
When you apologize excessively, you are, in essence, demanding emotional validation. You force the recipient of the apology, your companion, the host, the waiter, to repeatedly reassure you.
Oh, no, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. And that shifts the focus from the practical problem, which is the spill, to your personal emotional distress. That makes them uncomfortable, and it slows down the actual cleanup.
So one good apology is better than 10 bad ones.
A single, sincere, and sharp apology is far more effective than a panicked torrent. Dignity is maintained by swift, efficient action and a limited yet profound verbal admission of fault.
So the goal is to stabilize the environment, not to seek immediate forgiveness for yourself.
Exactly. You are communicating. I am aware, I am responsible, and I am already in problem-solving mode.
So instead of those panicked apologies, we need an immediate, dignified admission. The phrase suggested for this moment is, "Oh, how clumsy of me."
This phrase is a masterstroke of crisis management. It really is.
Why?
Because it's immediately self-deprecating in a very controlled way. By saying, "How clumsy of me," you acknowledge your fault clumsiness, and you frame the accident as a small, temporary personal failing.
Not a catastrophic failure of the entire evening?
Exactly. It's an exclamation of mild embarrassment, not a deep confession of guilt. It successfully admits the mistake, you accept full responsibility, but it does so without sounding desperate or overly dramatic.
And it sets the psychological tone for the entire group, doesn't it? If you treat it like a minor, immediately manageable inconvenience, they're going to follow your lead.
Precisely. And if you look at the structure, it's short, it's declarative, and it immediately moves you into the action phase. Contrast that with saying something like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I did that."
Which is all about you.
It focuses inward, and it keeps you stuck in that panic cycle. How clumsy of me focuses on the action that just occurred and then allows you to immediately transition to fixing it.
Which brings us to the next step. The admission of fault has to be paired immediately with demonstrable action.
They have to happen together.
The source material combines the necessary apology with the offer of remediation.
"I'm so terribly sorry. Let me grab a napkin."
This is the crucial combination. A sincere, singular apology, "I'm so terribly sorry," is only effective when it's followed by an immediate offer of a solution.
The action proves the sincerity of the words.
It does. The act of reaching for the napkin or immediately signaling the waiter demonstrates your control and your commitment to fixing the problem. It transitions the social focus from "who did this" to the critical question of "how do we resolve this efficiently?"
You are taking the lead. You haven't frozen up in embarrassment or, delegated the cleanup to others through your silence. And proactively taking the lead on that localized cleanup is vital. If you just apologize and sit there, you force someone else, the restaurant staff, your host, to take on that unpleasant, immediate task.
Right.
By saying, "Let me grab a napkin," you signal that you're handling the immediate damage. That frees up the restaurant staff to focus on the broader professional cleanup, or it allows your host to just continue the conversation.
So this blending of verbal responsibility and physical action is the highest form of grace under pressure.
It is. It demonstrates character.
Now, what if the waiter is already rushing over? Should you still insist on grabbing the napkin yourself?
That's a good point. If the professional staff is present and moving, your action should shift slightly. You should still say, "Oh, how clumsy of me, and I'm so sorry." But then you immediately defer to their professional process while remaining attentive.
You don't get in their way.
You don't get in their way? You could say, for example, "Thank you, I appreciate your help. Just let me know if there's anything I can do." You offer assistance, but you respect their professional capacity to handle the spill. You're acknowledging their role and maintaining the flow of service.
Okay, now we have to address the ultimate crisis, the nightmare scenario. The spill impacts a companion.
The worst case.
The wine didn't just hit the table, it hit their brand new suit, their expensive silk shirt. What is the absolute non-negotiable requirement here, according to the source material?
The absolute requirement is full indemnification.
Meaning?
You must completely remove any financial or logistical burden from the person you've affected. You cannot simply offer to pay. You must insist. The diplomatic phrase is stark, and it's essential. I insist on paying for the dry cleaning.
I want to focus on that word, insist. It's a strong verb. Why is it so necessary? Why not a softer phrase like, "I would be happy to pay for the dry cleaning"?
Because if you say, "I would be happy to pay," you are actually putting the burden back on your companion.
How so?
They now have to navigate the social pressure to be polite, which usually involves refusing your offer once or twice. "Oh no, it's fine. Please don't worry about it."
And then you get into that awkward back and forth.
You create an awkward, drawn-out negotiation right in the middle of a disaster. By using the word "I insist," you remove the negotiation entirely. You communicate that this is not an offer. It's not a suggestion. It is a done deal. It's a necessary component of you taking complete responsibility for the accident.
It's the ultimate act of diplomatic closure in a crisis.
Exactly. You are communicating. I acknowledge the damage to your property, and I take full financial responsibility. End of discussion.
And to really complete this, you have to follow through.
You must be proactive about getting their contact information, ensuring they can follow up with you, saying, I insist on paying for the dry cleaning. Please let me take down your contact information so I can arrange payment immediately, shows meticulous commitment. It solidifies trust.
It turns a highly embarrassing moment into a moment of powerful social strength.
Yeah, it does. It demonstrates reliability, character, and genuine regard for your companion.
It's the moment you stop thinking about your own ego and you start thinking about their immediate convenience and well-being.
And that shift is the core of sophisticated social navigation. You're showing that you value their comfort and their property far, far above your own momentary desire to save face.
All right, let's transition to the pleasant end of the meal. The crisis is averted, the conversation is winding down, and the offers begin. Dessert, coffee, maybe a final glass of wine.
The final hurdle.
And you are physically full.
Yeah.
You absolutely cannot eat or drink another thing. We've established that the beginner's default, no, I am full, it's functional, but it's abrupt. It lacks grace.
It can sound like a closed door.
So we need a way to decline politely while at the same time maximizing goodwill and appreciation.
The refusal must always, always be couched in overwhelming appreciation. When you decline, you have to make it clear that you're refusing the capacity to consume more.
Not the quality of what's being offered.
Exactly. The goal is to avoid making the person offering the dessert or drink feel awkward or, rejected.
Okay, so for an informal setting, dining with close friends or family, our source introduces a great phrase that uses some vivid imagery.
Let's hear it.
I couldn't possibly. I am stuffed.
Stuffed. It's a fantastic informal word. It's great because it immediately communicates complete physical fullness through a clear, slightly humorous metaphor.
You feel like a teddy bear.
You feel like something that has been physically packed to capacity. The power is its visual communication. It's so much more evocative than the bland, clinical word full. And it's slightly humorous, which effectively diffuses the formality of the refusal.
And again, that first part of the phrase, I couldn't possibly, acts as that polite, preemptive, softening phrase.
It does. It indicates a physical boundary, not an emotional one.
It places the refusal on a physical impossibility.
You're saying, I am physically prevented from accepting your generous offer, no matter how delicious it looks. And that is always more polite than suggesting you simply don't want it. Using a word like stuffed shows comfort and high confidence in informal C1 level vocabulary.
We should contrast that again with the bluntness of, say, a B1, B2 refusal, saying, I am full. It can sound like a declaration that just closes the conversation. It implies, my needs are met, end of story.
Whereas the construction, I couldn't possibly, I am stuffed, implies, I would love to, but my stomach physically objects because everything up to this point has been so excellent already. The emphasis shifts from your state to your desire.
Okay, taking that concept one step further into colorful, almost playful exaggeration. The force offers a highly descriptive, amusing alternative.
I like this one.
I am stuffed to the gills.
A superb example of a C2 level hyperbolic idiom. To define it for anyone who hasn't heard it, gills are the respiratory organs of a fish. If a fish is stuffed to the gills, it means it's entirely full right up to the very edge of its capacity.
It's extreme hyperbole.
It's extreme hyperbole. You're using an animal analogy to describe human consumption, and it's absolutely meant to generate a chuckle.
That imagery is just delightful. But as you mentioned earlier, dramatic language requires keen social judgment. So when is the right time to deploy an idiom that's this colorful?
This is reserved for highly casual settings, or when you're dining with people who, appreciate humor and playful language family, close colleagues, good friends.
Probably not with a very formal business associate you just met.
Probably not. Or with someone who speaks English as a second language and might not grasp the idiom instantly. It could be a bit too familiar or eccentric in that case. The use of this phrase signals, I am completely relaxed in your company and I am highly, highly satisfied.
It's a calculated social risk, then, that pays off with charm if you judge the room correctly.
Absolutely. The social payoff is that you sound incredibly natural and witty. Another comparable idiom, maybe slightly less extreme, is I'm fit to burst.
Or I'm bursting at the seams.
Exactly. Those also convey extreme fullness using physical imagery. But stuffed to the gills is a certain historical charm that often gets a good reaction. The critical takeaway here is that at the C2 level, you use these kinds of idioms to communicate a depth of feeling. In this case, satiety quickly and with personality.
Okay, let's move to the ultimate sophisticated refusal, the one that maintains goodwill and works in any setting, from a casual dinner to a high-stakes diplomatic luncheon.
The universal tool.
This phrase focuses heavily on appreciation. I'm afraid I've reached my limit. It was delicious, but I couldn't eat another bite.
This is the definitive phrase that defines true dining diplomacy, and we should break down its three essential components, focusing heavily on the linguistic strategy of hedging.
Okay, let's start with that opening move, I'm afraid.
This is your primary hedging mechanism. Hedging is the linguistic strategy that C1 and C2 speakers use to minimize imposition and manage social risk. By starting with, I'm afraid, you're expressing a slight regret, a reluctance at the necessity of your refusal.
So it signals that if things were different, you'd happily accept.
Precisely. It softens the entire message before you've even delivered it.
Okay, the second part is the declaration of the limit. I've reached my limit. That's a perfect euphemism for I am full.
It's perfect because it frames your satiety as a physical, almost quantitative boundary you've encountered. It's not a subjective judgment on the food itself.
It sounds polite and technical and non-dramatic.
It is. It doesn't invite a discussion about how much you ate. It just politely confirms that your body has signaled it has reached its capacity.
And then the third part, which is the crucial balancing act.
The compliment.
The compliment. It was delicious, but I couldn't eat another bite.
Exactly. By combining the refusal with the sincere, explicit compliment about the meal you've already had, you maintain the host's goodwill. You're confirming that the only reason for your refusal is the magnificent quality and quantity of the meal already consumed.
Not any flaw in the current offering.
Not at all. This phrase is universally adaptable, and it's proof that you can handle this kind of difficult social communication with real grace.
So if someone offers me a second glass of wine, I could adapt it and say something like, I'm afraid I've reached my limit for the evening, but thank you so much for the lovely offer.
Perfect. That is perfect. You're managing the imposition, the refusal, by surrounding it with deference, which is the hedging, and gratitude, which is the compliment. That full phrase is so much more than just polite. It's a demonstration of advanced social consciousness.
You're turning the rejection of an offer into an opportunity to offer genuine praise.
And that is the absolute peak of dining diplomacy.
Okay, let's just take a breath and connect all these sophisticated phrases back to the broader dining masterclass we've been exploring.
Let's pull it all together.
We started by looking at skills you need before the conversation even really begins. Learning how to, negotiate for the best table.
Deciphering the menu.
Deciphering the marketing language of the menu, right? And understanding how to complain with grace. Using that subjective, non-confrontational language if something goes wrong.
Those initial skills were really about managing the physical and transactional parts of the meal.
Yes.
Today, we've completed the journey by mastering the crucial social nuances of that middle part.
How to express enjoyment beautifully with sensory language.
How to handle necessary exits politely with those non-intrusive euphemisms.
How to navigate accidents with dignity and total responsibility.
And finally, how to execute those polite refusals using advanced hedging techniques.
The critical realization here, I think, for anyone listening, is that C1, C2 dining language isn't just about expanding your word list. It's not about memorizing phrases.
Not at all. It's about deploying the right phrase at the right moment, the specific idiom, the specific euphemism, the specific hyperbolic complement to strategically manage the social dynamic.
To reduce tension and maximize rapport.
That's it. And the payoff for you, the learner, is just immense. The true value of mastering these phrases isn't just speaking English at the table. It's about achieving the status of a charming, reliable, and sophisticated dining companion.
When you can handle a spilled drink with grace and insist on paying, or when you can compliment a dish with a sensory precision that shows you were really paying attention.
You build trust.
That's the real goal, isn't it? Establishing trust and rapport in a relaxed setting. When you demonstrate that poise, that confidence, that genuine regard for your companions through these linguistic choices.
You become the person everyone wants to have dinner with. You move from being just a participant in a social transaction to being an active, reliable contributor to a successful social event.
This level of communication ensures your focus stays exactly where it should be.
On building lasting relationships and enjoying the company, rather than anxiously searching for the right words in your head. It is dining diplomacy in action.
We hope that this deep dive leaves you feeling not only confident about your next dining experience, but also excited to maybe deploy some of these new advanced phrases.
To try them out.
Yeah. You now have the linguistic tools to transform a mere meal into an exercise in high-level dining diplomacy and social grace.
And as you reflect on the immense power of these highly specific C1 and C2 phrases, phrases like freshen up or I insist or I've reached my limit, consider this for your continued exploration.
Okay.
If mastering these specific idioms and euphemisms elevates your social standing at the dinner table, what specific C1, C2 idioms or euphemisms should you research next to elevate your sophistication in other common, tricky social settings?
Oh, that's a great thought. You mean like in the professional world?
Exactly.
The same principles of minimizing intrusion and maximizing goodwill, they must apply when you have to, say, politely interrupt a colleague in a high-stakes business meeting.
Or when you need to change the subject gracefully during a crowded networking event to steer away from a controversial topic.
That ability to pivot, to soften, and to appreciate, using language that minimizes friction.
It's a skill set that travels far, far beyond the dinner table. So continue the exploration of those social buffers.
A wonderful thought to mull over. Until next time, we wish you continued learning and bon appétit.